Iran has kicked out IAEA inspectors. There could be portions of their nuclear program that are secret. A nuclear secret in the Middle East. How about it? If the world is interested in a secret nuclear program in the Middle East, there is a country that won't allow any international inspectors. Israel. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Did you know that? I do. They allow no inspections. They are fully secretive and clandestine about it, and the Americans are fully aware. You know what? I don't even blame Israel for this. If they want to develop a nuclear weapon, if they had the blessing to do so secretly, I'm not in judgment of that. But to drag the world into a regime change war over secret nuclear weapons, when you have secret nuclear weapons, is a bit hypocritical.
Raviv Drucker of Channel 13, one of Israel's best-known journalists, said last week, in quotations, there were a lot of Iranian missile hits in IDF bases, in strategic sites that we still don't report about to this day. It created a situation where people do not realize how precise the Iranians were on how much damage they caused in many places. Since the 13th of June, Operation Rising Lion has dominated headlines, framed by a deluge of Western media portraying Iran as days from building a nuclear bomb. In response, Israel unleashed waves of airstrikes on Iranian territory, targeting military, nuclear, and civilian infrastructure. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu likened it to the 1981 bombing of Iraq's Osirak reactor, a strike of necessity to prevent annihilation. But beneath the familiar tropes of preemptive defense lies an unmistakable imperial calculus. Over 200 Israeli aircraft participated in the opening barrage, with deep penetration strikes and cyber warfare. Iranian air defense and radar installations were among the first to be hit. Mossad and allied forces used proxy agents to ignite internal sabotage, including drone and car bomb attacks in major cities. This was not a surgical strike to stop a bomb. It was a declaration of war, a bid to decapitate the Islamic Republic. Western assessments insist Iran is tottering, its economy hollowed out by sanctions, its population seething, its leadership fractured. But these are fantasies. What has emerged since Israel's 13th of June assault is not a regime in collapse, but a state adapting under fire, around which the majority of Iranians, irrespective of political affiliations, have united. Contrary to the Western narrative, the strikes that eliminated senior Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, commanders and nuclear scientists barely dented Iran's strategic posture. Within hours, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, reaffirmed Artesh, or conventional military control, over national defense, elevating new commanders and activating pre-planned strike protocols. This signaled a transfer of initiative from cautious IRGC veterans, many shaped by the traumas of the 1980 to the 1988 war with Iraq, to a more hawkish generation willing to directly strike Israel. Iran's retaliatory attacks on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of June, the third installment of Operation True Promise, struck Tel Aviv, Haifa, and 3 Israeli military bases. Online observers admired how quickly the Iranian military pivoted to war footing despite the assassination of high-ranking officers. One of them even noted, in quotations, "I do not think the American or Israeli military could have taken the losses of so many senior commanders and still struck back." Initial reports claimed Israeli dominance of Iranian airspace, based largely on footage of Israeli jets evading response and striking decoy targets. Yet after a 12-hour silence, Iranian air defense systems re-engaged with full force. The delay has been interpreted as either the effect of cyber warfare or a deliberate rope-a-dope strategy, i.e. to feign weakness, to draw in the enemy, make him overconfident, and then counter-strike. Iran lost facilities it expected to lose, such as the outdated IR-1 centrifuges at Natanz. Underground sites with IR-6 centrifuges at Fordo were unaffected. Mobile and fixed air defense units resumed operations by nightfall, and there are unconfirmed reports of Israeli aircraft downed in later attempts to breach Iranian skies. Israeli media touted air superiority, but most confirmed strikes targeted decoys. As military analyst Mike Mihadjovic explained, in quotations, more than 3/4 of the videos circulating are actually hits on the decoys. The illusion of dominance broadcast by Tel Aviv is cracking. Unable to sustain large-scale aerial assaults, Israel shifted tactics. Standoff missile strikes from Iraqi airspace waned. Instead, Mossad and its internal assets launched FPV drone attacks, car bombings, and anti-tank guided missile strikes. 5 car bombs exploded in Tehran on the 15th of June alone. Civilian sites, hospitals, dormitories, and residential buildings were hit. These are not military operations. They are acts of terror. Still, the West echoes Tel Aviv's narrative. The BBC and others describe the incidents as strikes, implying aerial precision, rather than the car bombings that they were. This deliberate linguistic obfuscation dehumanizes Iranians while sanitizing Israeli aggression. Yet, this has galvanized Iranians and united them. Much like the Iraqi President Saddam Hussein's 1980 invasion, Tel Aviv misread Iran's internal contradictions as signs of collapse. Yet, from the 13th of June onward, Iranians from across the political spectrum, including long-time dissidents, have rallied behind the state. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the U.S. Armed Forces Committee, Chairman of Staff Dan Kane, held a press conference on the United States attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. In particular, they gave the details of the operation, named its purpose, and told about the damage caused to the Islamic Republic. The U.S. Central Command struck a targeted strike at night at 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, in order to destroy or seriously weaken Iran's nuclear program. The Pentagon chief said that the United States considers the goals of damaging the Fordo nuclear facility to have been achieved. In quotations, all high-precision ammunition, according to our preliminary assessment, hit where we wanted and achieved the desired effect, he said. The mission, he claimed, was not about regime change. According to him, we are talking about a high-precision operation designed to eliminate threats to the national security of the United States and Israel from the Iranian nuclear program. General Kane, in turn, added that all 3 facilities in Iran were extremely severely damaged and destroyed.
تنها بخشی که در سایت هسته‌ای فورد آسیب دیده این تونل‌های ورودی و خروجی بودند و آسیبی به خود تأسیسات.
Iran's Fordo nuclear site did not suffer serious damage in the attack launched by the US. Fars news agency reported on Sunday, citing MP Mohammed Manan Raisi from Qom province, where the facility is located in Iran. US President Donald Trump has claimed that the Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan nuclear sites were completely and totally obliterated in the American strikes overnight. Raisi, the Iranian MP, told the agency that contrary to the claims of the lying US president, the Fordo nuclear facility has not been seriously damaged, and most of what was damaged was only on the ground level and can be restored. The lawmaker described the effect of the American bombing as superficial, stating further that there were no fatalities and no radiation leaks at the site afterward. In quotations, this US aggression means that America is directly entering the war, and now it is Iran that determines how and in what way to respond to this obvious American stupidity, Manan Raisi insisted. Reuters reported earlier, citing an unnamed high-ranking Iranian official, that most of the enriched uranium had been moved from Fordo to an undisclosed location before the US strike. Iran's Center for the National Nuclear Safety System confirmed the attack on the country's nuclear facilities, but said that emergency inspections at the affected sites had found no signs of radioactive contamination or leaks. The IAEA also said later that no increase in radiation levels had been reported at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Israeli media have reported on some strikes across the country that have resulted in varying levels of damage and casualties. However, due to military censorship enforced during wartime, reports on attacks involving sensitive or strategic targets are often restricted or withheld from the public. Using open source intelligence, including publicly circulated images and videos on social media, Israeli media platforms, as well as visual identification of destroyed locations in Israeli cities, Al Jazeera's fact-checking unit, Sanad, has mapped some of the most significant Iranian attacks on Israel from Saturday to Monday. On Saturday, the report missiles landed just 300 meters from the Israeli Ministry of Defense headquarters in Tel Aviv. This location, often called Israel's Pentagon, is one of the most sensitive and heavily fortified government complexes in Israel, housing key military and intelligence offices. Another strike hit the Weizmann Institute of Science, one of Israel's leading research centers, located in Rehovot, south of Tel Aviv. The institute is reported to have collaborated with the Israeli military, making it a significant target. In Ramat Gan, a city adjacent to Tel Aviv, missiles struck several towers and residential complexes, causing significant damage and forcing evacuations. Local authorities reported that 9 buildings were destroyed. The nearby city of Petah Tikva, to the east, was also hit by missile strikes that damaged both residential and commercial areas, while in Bnei Brak, a religious school, was destroyed. South of Tel Aviv, Bat Yam experienced the highest levels of destruction and casualties in Israel, with 9 confirmed deaths and about 200 people injured, according to emergency services. In Rishon LeZion, multiple homes were destroyed, adding to the widespread damage across the region. In northern Israel, Iranian missiles struck Haifa's Bazan petrochemical complex, the country's largest oil refinery, forcing a shutdown of operations. Haifa suffered a second missile strike, which hit several residential buildings in the Nevi Shannon neighborhood. And as of today, the Daily Telegraph put out a more in-depth report on the damage from the Iranian missiles to Israel. And I quote, "Iranian missiles appear to have directly hit 5 Israeli military facilities during the recent 12-day war, according to radar data seen by the Telegraph. The strikes, they say, have not been made public by the Israeli authorities and cannot be reported from within the country because of strict military censorship laws. They will further complicate the battle of words between the enemies, with both sides attempting to claim absolute victory." The new data shared with the Telegraph by U.S. academics at the Oregon State University, who specialize in using satellite radar data to detect bomb damage in war zones. It suggests 5 previously unreported military facilities were hit by 6 Iranian missiles in the north, south, and center of Israel, including a major air base, an intelligence gathering center, and a logistics base. Approached by the Telegraph on Friday, the Israel Defense Forces said it would not comment on missile interception rates or damage to its bases. In quotations, "What we can say is that all relevant units maintained functional continuity throughout the operation," said a spokesman. The strikes on military facilities are in addition to 36 others known to have pierced Israeli air defense systems, causing significant damage to residential and industrial infrastructure. Analysis by the Telegraph suggests that while the vast majority of Iranian missiles were intercepted, the proportion that got through grew steadily in the first 8 days of the 12-day war. The reasons for this, say experts, are not clear, but may include the rationing of a limited stock of interceptor missiles on the Israeli side, and improved firing tactics and the possible use of more sophisticated missiles by Iran. Although the Iron Dome is Israel's best-known air defense system, it is actually designed to protect against short-range projectiles, such as mortars, and is only one of the part of the layered air defense system the country uses. In the middle tier stands the David Sling air defense system, which is optimized for intercepting drones and missiles with ranges up to 300 kilometers. At the top is the Arrow system, which engages long-range ballistic missiles before they re-enter the atmosphere. Importantly, the Israeli systems were backed up throughout the 12-day war by 2 U.S. ground-based THAAD missile defense systems and ship-based interceptors launched from U.S. assets in the Red Sea. The U.S. is estimated to have launched at least 36 THAAD interceptors during the war at a cost of some $12 million a time. In Israel, a densely packed small country of just 9.7 million people, the piercing of the country's famed missile defense systems has come as a shock, with the authorities having to issue notices warning that they were not hermetic. Raviv Joker of Channel 13, one of Israel's best-known journalists, said last week, in quotations, there were a lot of Iranian missile hits in IDF bases, in strategic sites that we still don't report about to this day. It created a situation where people don't realize how precise the Iranians were and how much damage they caused in many places. Corey Sher, a researcher at Oregon State University, said his unit was working on a full assessment of missile damage on both Israel and Iran and would publish its findings in around 2 weeks. He said the radar system data that they used to assess damage measured changes in the built environment to detect blasts, and that absolute confirmation of this would necessitate either on-the-ground reporting at the military sites concerned or satellite pictures. Even by Israeli estimates, only half of Iran's launchers were destroyed in the 12-day conflict and substantial stocks of missiles remain. In quotations, Iran had about 400 launchers and we destroyed more than 200 of them, which caused a bottleneck in their missile operations, an Israeli military official said on Thursday. They added, we assessed that Iran had approximately 2,000 to 2,500 ballistic missiles at the beginning of this conflict. However, they were rapidly moving toward a mass production strategy which could see their missile stockpile grow to 8,000 or even 20,000 missiles in the next few years. Iranian Major General Fazli claimed that underground cities of missiles remained untouched in Iran. In quotations, we have not yet opened the doors of even one of our missile cities, he claimed on Thursday. We assess that so far, only about 25 to 30% of existing missile capability has been used, and at the same time, the production cycle is powerfully supporting this operational capacity.